Did you hear that? And then you can
I,
identify however you want, like Mike, I'm an alcoholic addict, whatever, and just let it flow.
all right. All right. My name's Mike. I'm an alcoholic addict. Um, I've had my sobriety date is 10/2 of 24. And so today's my 91 days sober. And, starting off as a kid, I was fairly bad kid in school and really, really rebelled against the rules at a young age. And from that point on, it kind of, my dad was pretty strict, pretty ran a tight ship for the most part. And then yeah, I was kept away from my whole dad side of the family, that side of the family, all addiction, in and out of prison, um, drugs, alcohol. And from that, I was sheltered from that up until the age of 12 when I was subjected to it. That's when I started smoking weed, drinking, and using methamphetamines. And as as hard as it is to say, the person that I did use drugs with for my first time was my dad. And so here's my mentor, here's my father that I look up to, that I want to be everything like, and I'm using meth with him at the age of 12. So from that moment on, it was like complete rebellion. I had no rules. I had no really anybody to tell me what I could do and what I couldn't do. All I had was, the homies, as they would call it, and I really idolized the gang lifestyle. I should have said I'm from Sacramento, California originally, reside here in Ogden, Utah, and thankful to call Utah my home. But like I was saying, really had a really rebellious kid from the start, and then drugs and alcohol and all that just really fueled the fire. Like I said, I idolized the gang lifestyle, and shit got real deep real quick out in California. And from that point on, when I started using meth and alcohol and smoking weed, ecstasy, whatever I could get my hands on, I was doing from that age. And as I look back on it, it's been a wild journey. As a kid, at 12 years old, I was real naive. So whatever my homies were doing or whatever my dad was doing is what I wanted to be a part of. And when I think back to my earliest days in elementary school, I really had no problem being a part of a group. I always fit in, with the cool kids, you would say. Played a lot of basketball, but as like I said, time went on. That from 12 on is all about drugs, alcohol, weed, girls, kicking it with the homies, and causing havoc. And so oof. Yeah, so at the age of from 12 to 14, like I said, I started doing the drugs and all that. I got into such deep shit out in California that my mom my mom made told my dad our son's gonna die or end up in prison, so we got to shake California. So we moved out to Utah, and you know how it says, wherever I went, there I was, and that was me. It really didn't slow anything else down. All that slowed down was how quick I got. I don't know how to put this. It didn't slow anything down, but I was able to find the group that I used to hang. Like basically, California came with me. I came with me, and the drugs and all that was just normal here. Normal life. And so moved to Utah, and then at the age of 14, I was my dad shot me. It was an accident shooting, but the way that it happened, it was over a drug deal gone bad. Guy ripped my dad off. Dad was pissed, and I'm in my room, and it's a horrible accident. But I'm in my room messing with the radio, and I heard my cousin tell my dad, "You won't shoot that gun in your own house." Well, I hear the gun go off. It goes through the wall, hits me in my side of my chest, right below my heart, and collapsed both lungs, blew up my spleen, lodged in my back. I was in the hospital for 9 days, life flighted from McCady to Primary Children's. And you would think that would slow my roll a little bit, but it didn't. It honestly, like, just like the drugs and alcohol and the weed, it fueled me to be think I was more of a gangster because I got shot, you know. And it's not funny, but it's like it's uh it's part of my story, you know. Like, getting shot, I almost died. I never took the time to really think about, you know, at that age, like, you know, God's been working in my life ever since, way before then. I mean, I've been in plenty incidences, plenty things that I should be dead or locked up in prison for a long time. And sorry, but and then as time went on, you know, after getting shot, we moved back to California, and we were homeless as a family. Me, my mom, my dad, and my sister with the dog. And we stayed out there for like another, I want to say like a year or two, but we were homeless, living in a van, in and out of motels. Yes, drugs were a factor of that. And you know, my my mom and my dad are addicts, but my mom, she's been clean for about 15 years now. My dad currently, he still, you know, suffers from the disease, but yeah, so moved back to California, and then, you know, Utah became our home from the time frame from when I lived here, moved here, and then when I got shot. And back to Utah, and I just started hanging out with the same old group. Went to school, got kicked out of school for fighting. Went to Two Rivers, got kicked out of there for gang affiliations. And then, you know, really in high school, around the age of 16 and 17, and 16 to 18, I really didn't do get into meth that much. I was more of like, I traded one thing for another. It was if I wasn't doing meth, and I was drinking hardcore and smoking weed and partying every weekend in high school, and that became a like a weekly routine, you know, for me and my buddies. And it was fun until it wasn't fun. You know, eventually these kids graduated. I dropped out, and there I am stuck at same position I was in from years ago. And you know, as time went on, uh, you know, I met this girl in my early 20s, and you know, and then that's November 9th, 2012 is the day that God blessed me with a daughter. And you would think that'd be enough for me to stop using, but my kids, my family, no matter what it was never enough. Like, to make me want to quit. Like, I always justified reasons to use. Oh, you know, my life was shitty, so I'm gonna go get high. Oh, just the littlest things. It was my cure all to everything. And so blessed with the daughter. She's 12 at the moment, and you know, some circumstances happen with baby mama, and so that, you know, that relationship's dead and gone. But we she took me to court for custody for my daughter when she was at the age of like 3 years old. I lost custody of her because I couldn't manage I couldn't beat the addiction. I didn't know how. I knew nothing of Alcoholics Anonymous. I didn't know anything about the 12 steps. I didn't know um, where to even begin to get help. And I don't even think at that time I wanted help. So I lost custody of her. And then, you know, as the years go by, it's drug. I dove deep into my addiction. I just, you know, after I lost custody, I felt like I had no purpose. I really dove into methamphetamines real deep then, and that became my everyday goal, if to go re up or to get high. And it was never true friendships out there, as everybody wants to claim to be. I mean, I've met a few good people, but other than that, it was like, what can I get from you, and pretty much what can they get from me? And that's pretty much how the whole game was. And so, like I said, early 20s, had my daughter. Still, like, I think it was like I was like 23 when I lost her to my ex, and then, you know, some years passed by. It's been about like 6 years, and so I let me see. So yeah, so some years go by. Like I said, deep in my addiction still, and And mind you, in the process of all this addiction and all this dysfunction, all the havoc, I'm in and out of county jails. Um, it just became normal to me. But by the grace of God, I'm not a felon. And like I said, I should be dead or in prison. But like I said, by the grace of God, I'm sitting here before you today and sharing my story. And so yeah, so life happens, goes on, and then finally, I want to say like I think it was about no, the year 2018 is when God intervened in my life, and I met an amazing woman, and she's been with me to this day. And at that time I was on probation, and so I was white knuckling sobriety. I only stayed good just enough to get off probation, and then so I could go back to what I was doing. Well, this woman that I met, this girl, when she came into my life, I shared with her that I was on probation, and I did have some drug problems, but I was past that. And it's and I thought I was, but I think I always held those reservations. Like when I get off probation, I'm gonna do the most. And so on probation, meet her, and get her number. No, she got my number actually. And then I really didn't plan on I didn't know what was to come of it. And then so we hang out, and then life happens, and we end up pregnant. And then at March 10th, 2019 is when God blessed me with a baby boy, and he's currently 5 years old today. And you would think that meeting this amazing woman that's a normie, has good morals, good standards, just an amazing person all around, and blessing me with a son would get me to quit or like just stay good. But the moment I got off probation, it was right back to it, but even worse. I mean, I caused so much destruction so much trauma, destruction, hurt. You know how it goes. And that's why I really can put myself in the chapter of To the Wives in the big book, and that was me. I was alcoholic number five. In that store, in that that chapter, and complete despair, hopelessness, and I left. I mean, I've done things. I went to places I said I would never go. I did things I said I would never do. And but to me, the cheating, lying, stealing, um, going back to the drugs was all a normal life to me for all the way up until I mean, forever. I mean, like I said, my dad was the first one I used drugs with, and I've witnessed my dad be unfaithful, and he's pretty violent dude. Um, in a sense. He yeah, he had bad anger problems, but like I too, he is sick. And so blessed with the baby boy, and like I said, it wasn't enough for me to stop. It really I went deep in the trenches, and to my amazement, I put this woman through hell, and maybe to even deeper than hell, I don't know. And so she knew me sober, and then she knew me using. We've been together for almost 7 years, um, and she knew me almost a year and a half, 2 years sober, something like that, and then 5 years of addiction. And I've always asked her, I was like, why are you still with me when I was deep in my addiction? And she was just like, because I know the man you can be when you're sober. And so and even then that wasn't enough to I've told her like, you might as well just leave me because I'm not gonna stop. I'm not gonna, and then about 3 years ago, it's just a repeat cycle of the bullshit. I mean, I was so tired of county jail, and probation and all this shit, but and then Strike Force pulls me over. I get busted with a little bit of paraphernalia and some drugs, and back on probation. And and so I stayed doing good for a minute, and then I no. So let me back up. I jumped forward a little bit. So I caught these drug charges, and then and around that time, some unfortunate fortunate circumstances. that happened with my daughter. I'm not going to reveal, what happened, but the ones closest to me will know what I'm talking about. They happened, and I was able to take my ex back to court to get custody of my daughter. Well, and at that point in my life, I was still deep in my addiction. Here I am, able to get a second chance to have my daughter back in my life, and I still couldn't get it right. I still couldn't stop using. I just nothing, no amount of love, no amount of care, how much they took care of me, none of that shit mattered to me, but what I could get and what I could take really. And and it just like, and it's a shitty thing to admit, but like as I, in my sobriety today, my recovery, it's just it's a part of my story, and it's who I was. It's not who I am now. But anyways, I ended up going to the judge and telling him, Judge, I want to go to treatment. And so he's like, go get help, and then I'll see. We'll let DCFS know, and then we'll go from there to set a court date when you get out of treatment. So I made the call. I finally, and that's kind of where I think my first time in treatment. So February 15th of the year 23 is when I checked into Valley Camp. I did the full 90 days. I worked my steps to the best of my ability, except for leaving stuff out of my fourth and fifth step that I didn't leave out the second time. But so where I think I went wrong with going into treatment, I had probation on my ass. I had DCFS and my daughter's future weighing in the balance. And then my mom was, on the verge of just cutting me off, and about to lose my girl and my son. And so all those things were kept me there the first time at Valley Camp. And I wholeheartedly, like, I felt like, I wanted it. I did want it. And I'm not going to discredit what I learned and what I gained up at Valley Camp the first time, but that still wasn't enough to keep me sober. I mean, after I got out of Valley Camp, I stopped calling my sponsor. I stopped going to meetings. I stopped doing everything I learned up there. And I was always told in treatment, if your misery is easily refundable, and I didn't understand what they meant by that fully until when I relapsed on Christmas Eve. Most important day for kids is Christmas, and they hear dad all high on Christmas and lit up, and my girl knows me so damn good. She could tell through the phone call, and it kind of just, I ruined a lot of holidays. I ruined a lot of some cherishable moments that were just nightmares at that point. And I just, as I look back at that, I was a very selfish, inconsiderate, self-centered person. So relapse, went back out for 10 months, and then I finally hit my breaking point of where I was at in my addiction again. Here I am back at it, and but this time it felt like that 10 months felt like my 20 years of addiction combined. And so like just in that 10 months, it was so bad. I just was so depressed. I was suicidal, and I felt like I was asking God, what the hell is my purpose? And you know, and when I'm on that shit, methamphetamines, like I've shared before, it turns me into a person that I'm completely like, it's a complete 180. I'm a monster. I have bad anger issues when I'm on it. I tend to get physical abusive with my girl, and hurt her in ways that is infallible or whatever. Things that I would never do sober. And then so there I was, 10 months into my relapse. And, they say that you relapse before you relapse. Well, that's exactly what happened. I was, like I said, stopped going to meetings, stopped doing everything that I learned and was suggested. So I finally hit the breaking point again of surrendering. But at this point in my life, I'm like, there's only two options for me. Either I'm going to kill myself or I'm going to get help. And the only thing I could think of to do at that moment was to call my mom and tell her I need to go back to Valley Camp. I need to seek treatment again. And obviously, I didn't do something right, and that's because I felt like I had to stay there my first time. So 10 2 of no 10 4 of 24 is when I checked back into Valley Camp for my second time. And at this moment in my life, it was for me. and for myself to because I was tired of the way I was living, and I don't want to die. I want to be there for my kids. I want to be there for my girl and my family, and I want to be the man I know I can be. And so, like I said, checked in 10-4 of 24, went back through, and I'd be lying if I said I stayed the whole 90. I stayed 54 days that go around, and but the humility that I've learned since going through the second time, because I always told myself I'll never be that retread or that person coming back through a second time. And like when I made false promises and just to rip the carpet from underneath them and bring every structure that I was rebuilding down. And and that hope that they were getting, like, oh, he's doing it, and then for me to go back out and relapse and do that. So, like I was saying, the humility that I've learned the second time in camp was tremendous, man. I'm not gonna lie, I felt ashamed walking through those doors for the second time, but it was like a sigh of relief. Like, okay, I'm in a safe haven now. I could get my mind right, and now I could work on myself. And going through Valley Camp that second time has been a real big blessing on my life, because I went in with being honest, with an open mind, and willing to go to any lengths for my recovery and my sobriety. And that's exactly what I've been doing. And I left early at 54 days, but something, I prayed on it, and I still, like, the way things worked out. It was kind of like I felt like it was meant for me to go that day, and I always, I let go and let God. And so the day I left, they got a new resident, and that dude looked destroyed. So I felt good about me leaving early. But the things I learned up there are there's no price tag on that, and they say you must freely give away what was so freely given to you. And I'm learning that nowadays, and that's me opening up at meetings, showing up, suiting up and showing up and doing the deal. And life's been beautiful. I mean, it's been real beautiful. I mean, it's all the relationships that I thought were going to be dead and gone are getting stronger by the day. And like I said at the beginning, I was willing to go to any lengths for my recovery, my sobriety, and that's exactly what I am, is willing and accepting the fact that I caused all this hurt. So I'm accepting the fact that it's going to take years, maybe a lifetime of reconstruction, and I'm okay with that, because I have an amazing support group. I have my mom, my girl, my sister. I got my two babies, and my brother, his wife, and my two nieces that they all support me. And so, like, I don't know where I'd be in this world without the support I have. And then not only my intermediate family I have, but I've gained a fellowship of family. My brothers in camp that I've been that I went through, and that I met, and people within the rooms. Everybody accepts everybody, and nobody judges anybody, and that's what I love about it. And they do these dinner and the meetings up at Valley Camp, and I absolutely enjoy those, because you can feel the spirit. For me, my higher power is God, so I can feel the spirit of God within those rooms, within any of you know the meetings. I feel that His presence is strong there, as we all are trying to come together for one common purpose: to stay sober and still help the suffering alcoholic, addict, whatever it may be. And so today, my life, like I said, is a lot more beautiful. I feel I have natural energy. I don't need a substance to function every day. Um, I have my kids are happier. My wife, my soon to be wife, is happier. Everybody's happier because dad's sober, and I'm happy that I'm sober. And it's a joyous, peaceful feeling that I have inside, knowing that I can, it's one day at a time. Because if I think about staying sober for a lifetime, then that'll just overwhelm me. But if I could do this at 24 hours at a time, then that's something I can do. So yeah, getting out of camp for that second time has been a real beautiful thing. Sticking close to the fellowship, staying in the herd, as they would say, and just doing the gig, man. Since I've been out of camp, as I was approached by Willie to do this, share my story, at least a fraction of it, or and that was a blessing in itself, because I never would have thought I'd been approached for something like that. And then not only that, I would never even thought that I'd be a sponsor, and I'm sponsoring one of the residents up at camp right now, and which that's been a blessing. So everything's coming around. Things that I really wouldn't have imagined are happening for me. I mean, yeah, it's a slow and go process, but it's worth it. It's really worth it. And yeah, so um, honesty, open mindedness, and willingness, and one day at a time. I carry my 24-hour chip in my pocket to remind me how fucked up I was when I first got to camp, back into camp, and um, I just stay connected. That's how I'm staying sober today. That's all I got.